lot of different questions that people ask. Gabby's briefed me. She said, these are some of the things that people want to know about and they want to pick your brains on. Ahead of time, please feel free. Like, honestly, for me, it's a pleasure when I get a chance to actually talk shop. It's really enjoyable for me. So there's no such thing as a silly question. We're all cool on that?
Yeah.
All right. Good. All right. So, for those of you that don't know me, yes, my name is Locky, but I've been with Isagenix now for, is it 13 years? Gabby, how long have you been? 13. Yeah, we were around about a similar sort of a time. Yeah, I had hair, so it was a little, it was going back a while. But it was, look, it's always interesting as a fitness professional, because I admit, up until then, I had worked a lot with body transformation. I was the head lecturer at the Australian Institute of Fitness and the New Zealand College of Fitness that was over here. I was basing out of Christchurch as well too. So I was doing a lot of education, so training up new personal trainers and nutritionists. And somebody came along to me and said, hey, you need to see this Isagenix thing. And to be honest, I had a bit of a professional ego at the time. I was thinking, I need to see it? Like, really? Why do I need to see it? And you know, it's interesting when you have a bit of a reflection back, you know, I call it like those sliding door moments, and I'm so glad that I did, because what was able to occur after that and what I was able to learn and grow within my own industry was incredible. The people that I met, the people that are associated with Isagenix, the people like Dr. Paul, for instance, Dr. Mia, it took me through a journey that I was not expecting and a learning curve that I certainly wasn't. And my clients were able to directly benefit from that, to a point then where I certainly evolved my own business around working in with the products. And I was lucky enough to be able to compare some of the clients that I'd been working with, of course, that some of them I trained for 10 years plus already, before Isagenix, after Isagenix. And I think the big thing that Isagenix has always really promoted, and that's something that I really believe in, it's not so much about just a supplement, it's about a lifestyle, it's about a balance of all things coming together. Which is why you see Gabby bouncing around with promoting a healthy lifestyle, because there's something in combining that world of great nutrition, great supplementation that you know is going to fill the gaps, and wrapping that all together with a healthy lifestyle. And that's something that when you see people do all three, amazing, you can't predict what sort of results that you get. All right, so that's a little bit about how we came to be. But if I can jump in, so pretty much we've got a bit of something for everybody, but we know that the headlining product is of course going to be our shake. And one of the things that you'll find about any supplement in the industry, and this is something that I really want you to try to take with you, don't ever get caught by numbers when you're shopping around for supplementation, because it's very easy to focus on a number and think to yourself, well, that one's got more than this particular one. So this might have more protein, for instance, this one might have more, whether it's vitamin D or whatever it might be that you're hunting for. Understand, when it comes to supplementation, the key should always be a focus on absorption. A focus on absorption. You'll hear this term spoken about a lot. It's called bioavailability. Who's heard that before? Basically, we're talking about absorption. So it's how familiar your body is going to see whatever it is that you're eating or drinking and be able to then assimilate with that particular product in the body. So basically, you've got protein powders that might have very high amounts of protein that when I was at uni, we used to call them expensive urine. So it goes from one end in and then so in a lot of the time you're not actually taking on a lot of it, okay? Whereas you have different types of protein, different quality of protein that then will absorb in the body, and that's the key. So you might have less, but you have greater absorption. Is that all making sense? You pull open most protein bars, they're usually a good one because it's fairly close to home. I work a lot in with different protein bars, and you'll find that some of them now, because remember how for a lot of us that have been around for a while, it used to be, hey, you can only absorb 25 grams of protein. Who's heard that before? If somebody tells you that, they usually have good intentions, but that is old science. And you look at any new science now, you'll find that your body can absorb a lot more, particularly if you're active, and it doesn't go to waste. It goes into your body to protect against muscle breakdown, all sorts. So you can absorb a lot more. But a lot of these companies are trying to put more and more protein. So you can get a 50-gram protein bar. Has anyone ever tried or tasted a 50-gram protein bar? It's not yummy. It's you really want that protein by, if you're eating that. But if you look at what protein it is, does anybody know what the main source of protein they generally tend to use? It's a lot of heavy soy-based protein. It's not good quality soy-based either. And to give you an idea, whey protein, which is the main front runner of what we use, the best quality whey protein in its raw form, before it's mixed, anything as such, roughly, it does change a fair bit, but I'll say it's about $48-50 a kilo in its raw form. Soy is $4 a kilo, to give you a bit of an idea. So soy protein can be okay in small amounts, but it's also been known to do a lot of different hormonal disruption, all sorts of different things in larger amounts, and certainly if it's not treated correctly. So
what is the maximum amount of protein you should eat?
What's the maximum amount of protein that you should eat? Well, that's dependent on the person.
What is the maximum amount of protein?
You're looking at grams per kilogram?
Also, if you're meant to eat 120 or 130 grams per day, how much should you be eating each meal?
Oh, okay. So it's a good question. So how much can your body actually absorb in one go? So say, who's heard, for instance, they need to eat a certain amount of protein per day? So a really easy way to work that out for most people is to get their body weight in kilograms. And even if you're not a calorie counter, I often say, look, I totally get it. If people don't want to sit there and live their life with a calculator, we've seen those people before, right? Then they don't have many friends. Okay, so we've all been there, okay? We've all been in that position, but as in, you don't want to be constantly living your life like, do you know how many calories are in that? I get it. It's important to be calorie aware, and when you're on that journey, it's important to know what you're putting into your body. So it's an important stepping stone. So I'm not knocking it, but I'm just sort of making fun of the fact that we've all been in this situation, or we've had people in our life that are probably a little bit too much that way inclined. However, if you're an athlete, if you're somebody that you need to get an exacted amount, you need to live your life like that, right? So it has to be the way. But when it comes to how many grams per kilogram, that's very specific to your lifestyle that you're living. So if a person is training every day, if a person is constantly in fits of recovery, that's endurance, weight training, whatnot. Generally, the standard nowadays is 2 grams per kilo per day. So say, for instance, you've got a 90 kilo individual, 180 grams is usually a rough estimation, and then they usually extend from there. So especially in the case of endurance as well, they'll even go even higher. So where it used to be just bodybuilders want to eat more protein, but they realise so much more about how much endurance do. Now with that, if you split that throughout the day, who's heard that you need to eat every 3 hours? There's no real science in eating every 3 hours. That was just something that they roughly worked out so as that you could fit the amount of calories you needed in the day. Because most of the time we found is if you didn't space your meals out, you got to the end of the day and went, oh, I've got 200 grams of protein I've got to try to eat. And it was unrealistic. And so with that, you can certainly eat a lot more in one go, but it's not necessarily going to be the most comfortable experience, and you usually find it's not as efficient. So where your body can benefit the most from protein is usually after your workout, or when your metabolism is nice and is high. So everything, think of when you finish a workout of any kind, the most important meal of the day, doesn't matter what stage in life you're at, what sport you're doing, the most important meal of the day that you never skip is your post-workout meal. It is by far the most important. So what can you absorb within that? Usually a lot more than what most people think. So I wouldn't go to try to say you need to try to do 100 grams or 120 grams or anything like that. Everyone's a little bit different, but certainly note that it's not this case of someone's doing 50 grams and they've only got 25 grams as their, or eat. It's not gonna rock the boat, because the thing about protein that most people don't realise is about 30% of the calories from protein, so 30, is the energy it takes to break down the protein. Does everyone understand that?
Yeah.
So if you look at when someone's working out the calories for the day, say they said, okay, you're going to have, let's say you've got 500 calories from protein, just as an example. About 30% of that is then going to be taken out of the equation because it's going to take that effort to break down. All right? So that's where a lot of weight loss programs focus on protein. And someone might say, well, I'm not a bodybuilder, why am I eating protein all the time? It's because it's a safe calorie, because it drives your metabolism at the same time as being able to create low-calorie meals for yourself and heal your body. Like I said, nothing beats being able to combine that with exercise, where it now has a role to play in healing and creating new muscle and all that fantastic stuff.
Is there an ideal time to do that post-workout?
Post-workout, usually within 20 minutes. It's a great question. And this is where the interesting age-old supplementation versus food comes into play. And if you ever find yourself getting caught in that argument, try to always remember that it really is no comparison. So food does something that's very different to supplementation. So if I can just make that distinguishing right here, food is solid and it goes through mechanical breakdown, and yes, you can have protein, carbs and fats and everything that you need in the food that you eat. And that's always been the argument against supplementation. But truth be told, food is food and takes a while to break down, so that even foods that are easy to break down, like fish, like you find that, quick carbs, different things like this, for the protein especially to be extracted from food, you're looking at 2.5 to 3 hours for a person whose metabolism's fast. Whey protein digests in 20 minutes.
Wow.
So it's never ever about trying to compare food to supplements. It's always about what can get there first. And when you're in a post-workout state where your body's reaching out for calories, reaching out for nutrients, then certainly whey protein's going to get in and do its job very quickly. So that's the difference. And they say, well, what should I do? Should I do a post-workout shake and should I do food? That's easy, both, because both will then absorb at different times. You're getting 30 grams within 20 minutes of what you're having post-workout, and then usually your meal, so that's not really even a meal, that's just topping up your protein, and then your meal then carries on, and a few hours later, boom, you get that protein flow-through effect, which we call protein pacing. Very good. Imagining trip to Hawaii for you, young lady. Very good. So ideally, does that answer your question? That's the best time. And the reason why I'm harping on that a lot, guys, if you ever read Dr. Paul Cribb's research, somebody that I've worked closely with for a number of years, he's big on post-workout fueling. He was a huge proponent of creatine as well. He did his PhD on creatine 22 years ago, before it was cool. So now it's super cool, isn't it? Everyone knows about it, and he's like, I was telling you guys, So yeah, he's a big one on research around that, how much of a difference it makes. Post-workout protocol, take that away, and how much the difference in weight, fat loss, muscle gain, it's extensive, through the roof. So, yeah.
We've got like an hour Q&A after.
Yep, I'll keep going. Boom. Okay, so as we mentioned, we've got all the above, gut health, fitness, etc. We'll move that forward. Do you want me to do a
Oh, we've got a video now.
Yep, go, there's look at the speakers.
Vitamins and botanicals and minerals resets your whole body. Longevity is the key. Isagenix gives us the opportunity to live in a body that's been stay up, and that is a win. That's absolutely what I'm about now. Longevity, health for your extended.
Should we just skip that?
Well, people get
You can hear it?
I honestly put it down.
We're back to the start.
That's good visual, isn't it?
Vitamins and botanicals and minerals resets your whole body. Longevity is the key. Isagenix gives us the opportunity to live in a body that thrives daily, and that is a win. That's absolutely what I'm about. just today. You are giving your body so much goodness. I honestly believe Wednesdays are the golden ticket for anyone that wants energy.
These little goodies give me the energy I need to finish off a race strong, and they taste great.
My fitness and my strength have improved into my 60s, so why would I stop?
When Isagenix came along, I was able to confidently give my clients this system, this plan to follow.
Have we all seen their video? No? Yes. So basically,
Isagenix apart from every other system out there.
Sorry about that.
I think more with audio, because I'll see if I can figure it out.
yeah, we might be able to watch it later if
Yeah,
we
we'll
can
watch it
figure
later.
that all out.
Yeah.
So who's interested in longevity? I've heard this is obviously a very big focus for a lot of us. So longevity is not just about living longer, it's about living better in the time that you have. That's called health span, and I think that's something that's really important. I think when you can do the things that you want to do with ease, as you get older, I think that's really important as a focus. There's a very famous longevity doctor who's heard of Peter Attia. You ever look at any of his stuff, it's very interesting. He talks about planning for your last 10 years of living. It sounds a bit morbid. It's almost like writing a will or something like that. People don't like the idea of doing it, but I think it's a really interesting focus because when people train for an event, we train because we want to be able to do a certain thing at the event, whether it's finish a race, perform, play well, whatever it might be. But most of us haven't really given too much thought to what you want to still be able to do in the final 10 years of your life. And the reason why I think that's so important is because you spend the time between now and then training to be able to do that by then. Does that make sense? So if you say you want to be running around after your grandkids, you want to still be able to duck down, you want to be able to still run and play and kick the ball or whatever it might be, if you're putting the plan into place now, it allows you to be able to move forward towards that rather than a shock. Who's had that? Because I'm sure we've all experienced different points. When you go to do something, you go, I can't do that anymore. And you know, you might be hard on yourself, you might push yourself to be able to do it, but if you're not careful, what you don't use, you will lose. And I push against that. Like I'm 45. Yeah, 45. Are we 45? We're 45. 45 in October. And like honestly, look, I get it. One thing that I do find that I think is really important, I try to push against it all the time, but I do find that if I have a break, that's where I notice it the most. So the trick is not to stop. All right, that's the best advice that I could give don't stop. And if you have to stop because you've had an injury and you've got to work on your personality for a little while, which is what I call it, just working on my brain, working on my personality because I can't do anything, I'm going through some sort of injury or something that's happened. So then you come out of that, you've got to get consistent again. Momentum is the key, because when you lose your momentum, that's when things start to really get a bit tricky. But it absolutely can be you. Don't think that, do you know who is most prone to injuries more than anybody else as we age? And this is something that I really want to be an eye-opener for some people out there. This might save you some real trouble. Who's most prone to getting injured? You are. No? No? Do you know? Who do you reckon? Who do you want to have a guess? Who's most prone to it? Yeah, the active people, especially if you've been really active. If you've been really active, whether you're an athlete or whether you've been really active, why? Because your muscles are strong. You're trained, but you're not conditioned. That's a big difference. When you're not conditioned, that's why you get Christmas time. Every year you get out there with your rallies and whatever, and someone goes to do the old, fast bowl, and they haven't done it in 5 years. Geez, like why? Or they do their calf muscle because they go out to try and kick the footy. Why? It's not an old woman, old man injury. Stop saying that to yourself because that's not what's happening. What you're doing is you are not conditioned. You are capable, but not conditioned. That's a big difference. So the people that are think about it, you're strong, you've dripped, like your body can move on cue. You've probably sprinted, you've probably jumped, you've probably lifted weights, you've probably done all of that. So you've got this really strong muscle. But tendons and ligaments, when you don't use them, they soften, firstly, but also your body works against you. Who's heard of muscle guarding before? You'll see this now after I've said this. Muscle guarding is when other muscles kick in to try to protect an area, and if you haven't conditioned your body, your muscles kick in almost like they're trying to sabotage you. So if you see this when someone goes, they don't mean to work like that. That's a natural reaction. The body's stiffening up all the muscles, and as a result, it's the guarding that causes it. Who's seen like the sprinters when they're I'm doing this in slow motion, by the way. Okay, so their leg is coming like this, and in the air you see their face change. Because their leg is coming this way, and when a muscle guards, it actually contracts in the opposite direction. So you got a leg going this way, muscle contracting in this way, boom, snap. That's why you don't stand a chance. You can have a person tear an Achilles like that, even though it can hold 2.5 tons of weight. Why? Because you've got tension going this way, tension going that way. So my point being with longevity, the biggest thing is that you've got to ease into anything new. Know that you're capable of anything that you put your mind to and you condition yourself to. It's not okay to try to think that you can't keep progressing, okay? And most of the time when it comes to longevity, a lot of it is around what you can do, get your body to do. Supplementations are all things that will complement the process of longevity and recovery, but there won't be a replacement for you doing the work to be able to make sure that you get your body there. Everyone cool on that?
Yeah.
So I love it when people are trying to pinpoint different areas of supplementation. It's awesome. It's a cool focus, but you're talking about the 1 and the 2%ers in the big picture of it all. All right? Is there anything specifically, well, if you want to learn about longevity, we'll obviously chat about it in the Q&A, but we'll talk about peptides. I know you guys want to hear about peptides, GLP-1s, all that sort of stuff. It's cool stuff. All right. Something like a 30-day reset, though, when you look at our products, how that kind of fits that whole mold. Understand that we're getting nutrients put through, and that's nothing new in any sort of supplement regime. The biggest difference that we tie in is that we tie in a cleanse, which allows the body to obviously have a bit of a rest, but also allows it to absorb the nutrients much better. For those of you that have cleansed before, you'll notice that when you are fasting, the first meal that you have, it's almost like you can feel every part of that meal because your body now becomes ultra sensitive to it. You imagine that on a larger scale of someone's cleansing quite frequently, getting rid of unnecessary toxins from the body, replacing it with good nutrients, which most of us don't get a chance to do throughout our life. And what does that mean? Well, when the body is toxic, it generally tends to hold on to different types of fat. So when people say, well, fat's fat, you can't choose where you burn fat from, that's true. But when your fat is held, when it is toxic, you'll find that the body can't burn that because the body is repelled by it because it actually can't put it into the bloodstream. When you detoxify your body, this is where oftentimes you'll find that you'll lose weight from areas where you might have found it quite hard to do so before. Make sense?
Very much.
So we've got everything on the plan is designed or geared towards keeping you on the plan. Can your body cleanse itself without cleansing products? Of course. And that's always been a bit of an argument. Well, can't your body just do this? Yeah, but it's really hard to do a water fast and not as efficient because it doesn't give your body the energy and the tools that it needs to get through it and to recover from it. That's the biggest difference. So yes, of course your body can do it on your own. Your body, you can run without shoes too. Shoes feel better and probably get me a little bit more excited about doing a run, yes? So buy shoes, keep consistent. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Next one. And of course the research is here to back it up. If you're a nerd like me and you enjoy being able to look at the research, by the way, you don't have to delve into the research too much. Just try to see yourself in parts of the research, because I think that's probably something that makes a lot more sense. If you see, if your goal is wanting to improve muscle mass, and you see some of the results that have been achieved through different age brackets and different lifestyles of people, you're bound to find something in the research that we've got that depicts that. So I think that's probably the first thing, is try and find relevance in some of the research of how you might be able to relate to it where you're at, because yeah, it's quite extensive. And just so that we understand, a peer-reviewed study basically means once you've completed a study, it goes to your peers in the industry that you're creating the study for. So that basically their goal is to pick it to bits and to prove it wrong. So if you hear a peer-reviewed study, it's been put together, the results have been collated, and they've given it to the peers that probably have no other greater pleasure than telling us that you can't do that. But then once it gets pushed through, then it gets published. All right? So that's all of the studies that we've included there. So understand that they're quite extensive. Everything from muscle mass to reducing of body fat, etc. at the same time, which in our industry is always considered quite difficult to do. A lot of the time in our industry, you'll find that people will be either focused on fat loss or focused on muscle gain. Would you agree? What do they call it when you're trying to put on muscle?
Bulking.
Bulking. Dirty bulking is where you just you see any calories and you just go after it. We've had friends of ours that are on this seafood diet, seafood needed. Yeah, that's that, and it does it work? Of course it does. But you also meet those guys, and that will say, well, "You wait till summer, I'm going to be cutting this up. It's going to be awesome." But that was 10 years ago, and they just go through an endless bulking phase, And then you've got the cutting phase, or that weight loss phase, for people that they're constantly trying to lose weight. Who can relate to that? Just need to lose this bit of weight, and then you kind of yo-yo between it. The goal of and a lot of what has been set up within Isagenix is to be sitting right in the middle, which, does anybody know what that's called? When you're losing body fat and gaining muscle?
Body composition.
Body
Composition.
recomposition, yes, very good. So body recomposition gives you the ability to increase your muscle, decrease your body fat percentage at the same time. And someone might say, I don't want to put on any muscle, I just want to lose some weight. That's what you say now, but if you knew that the muscle becomes like your engine for burning more body fat, all of a sudden it becomes much more exciting. So we're talking about even 1/100th of a gram difference in muscle mass will make a difference. Isahealth is a site that you've got to check out, and it doesn't get used enough, and I will try to pull as much research from Isahealth as I possibly can, so you can have a look and check it all out. Sound good? And they've got great little articles on there too that are sort of written in a way that's human. So you're not going to sit there and just be like, sometimes if you read published studies, it can be quite confusing. This one sort of condenses it and puts it in human form for you. All right, so guys, we might just jump up if that's okay, just to get a little bit of movement. Your brain can only endure what your bottom can, okay? That's a rule of thumb. So we'll just turn to the person next to us, guys, just going to get our brains working as well as... So what we're going to do, guys, we're just going to link arms. Can I just use you here? So we'll just go one hand over, one hand under like this, and we're just going to do just a little bit of moving. Just be kind to each other. What's your That's evil. Alright, so interval like this. Ready? Count of 5. 1, 2, and go. 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so yes, when we're comparing shakes in the market, I'm just going to be really quick with this, guys, but I want to give it enough credit. Of course, we have adequate amounts of protein within our isolene shake, but the real key that often people don't understand is the vitamins and the minerals. Now, a lot of the time, artificial minerals and vitamins are used in complete supplement formulas. And there's a reason for that, because you can't half say, hey look, it's got this amount of vitamin D, this amount of vitamin C, this much magnesium, if they're derived from natural sources, because what happens to natural sources when you leave it out in the open? And if you've got to have a shelf life on a supplement, you need to make sure that what you say is in the product is still in the product a year later. So Nutrifusion is the biggest new addition within the Isagenix shake, which allows the nutrients, the minerals and the vitamins to be snap frozen basically, and all the nutrients locked in from the very beginning. So now we don't have, there's no synthetic vitamins and minerals, it's all whole food based. Now what does that mean? It means then that all the other good stuff that comes from having whole foods, which is including things like enzymes and coenzymes, which all you need to know there is basically they are what help to stimulate or encourage any sort of chemical reactions in your body. And because it's familiar, because it's whole foods, the body goes, I know what's going on here. And all of those coenzymes basically help to speed those reactions and help that absorption. Fancy word for absorption is bioavailability. So all of that bioavailability now is often enhanced so much more. So when we say, hey, vitamins, minerals, proteins, fiber, it's not just chucking it in and a number, it's the best number that will have the highest amount of absorption. Cool on that? All right, moving forward. So, of course, we've got the plant-based option as well, and no plant-based is going to be straightforward if you want to achieve a complete amino acid profile. You need to combine different plant sources to be able to achieve that. So that's what our plant-based does. Great protein, of course, still is going to incorporate the fiber, all of the vitamins, minerals, etc. It's just a play with the protein, slightly different. IsaPro is our straight protein formula. Two things that affect the absorption of your protein are fiber and fat. What are they? Fiber and fat. All right, so if you do a workout and you need to get protein straight into your body within that 20-minute mark, you don't want a lot of fiber and you don't want a lot of fat because they will slow down the release. So you notice a lot of the post-workout focus is sugar, especially for athletes. It's like sugar, banana, protein, get it in there, Gatorade, you know, whatever it might be, because they're trying to encourage you to push that through, straight through into your body. All right, so IsaPro is the option for where you have completed your sport, or the clear protein. You just had to try that.
Yum.
You have to try some of that. We've got that up on the back there. Goran's been working hard with the label all morning, getting all of that done for us. Because that one there will go straight through into your body, no fat, no fiber, boom, straight into the bloodstream within 20 minutes. All right, next one. But I think I had so much of that clear protein, I'm getting the pasties. But I'll grab some water, thanks mate. It tastes nice, but I'm gonna dry it out. Now, who knows that stress is going to be pretty much the blame for most things nowadays? Whether it's disease, whether it can be injury, all sorts of things come back to stress. But this is something that I think is really important. We know that sleep, for instance, ties in beautifully with anything to do with longevity, performance, recovery. Now, I want to really get you to understand this connection here between stress and cortisol. Now, who's heard that when you get stressed, you get high cortisol? Who's heard that? Yeah? Who else knows that with cortisol, thank you very much, also comes with glucose? Who's heard of that? Well, it makes sense then. Try and imagine if we're back in sort of prehistoric time and we've got a dangerous situation. So we've now got a stress hormone and our body pushes carbs or glucose, pushes glucose through into the bloodstream. Why? because we need to fight or get out of there, yeah. So it basically gives us energy. So why is that important? That's really, really important because this is how a lot of people spend their life. They get stressed, they get cortisol. What they don't often understand is that when you get cortisol, you spike your blood glucose. Now, blood glucose alone wouldn't be a problem, except for what happens when you spike your blood glucose to be able to bring your blood glucose down. Insulin. Who knows that insulin's super bad for most of us when we're not exercising? Insulin's not. Insulin is a wonderful hormone, it's important, but if we don't control it, if we have a resistance to insulin, because we've got it in abundance and our body can't break it down properly, that's when we get ourselves in all sorts of strife. That's where all sorts of different diseases, cancer, all sorts, okay, are stemming from insulin concerns. So have a think about that. Stress, not sleeping, cortisol goes up, blood glucose goes up, insulin comes in to bring the glucose down, all of a sudden we've got lots of insulin. When you've got insulin in high amounts in the body, this is something I really, really need you to remember. No fat burning. We've got insulin in high amounts in the body, no fat burning, which is why you'll find one of the most common habits of people that find it very hard to lose weight consistently throughout a lifetime is that they are either eating or drinking high amounts of sugar, particularly drinking high amounts of sugar. So you have your soda stream. Soda stream's yummy, but full sugar soda stream with your Pepsi or your Coca-Cola, or you're having a straight Coke, blood glucose goes up, insulin comes down. You say, well, but my calories are only sitting at X amount, you know, like I'm not really having that many, but all the while your insulin is there, no fat burning. Okay, so it's a hormonal play rather than just a calorie gain, which is why we get so frustrated when people just hunt down a calorie amount and think that's just the be all and end all without actually understanding what makes up that calorie amount. Okay, good, good. And that's where obesity and visceral fat and all sorts of things are going to come from. It just becomes a loop, all right?
What is your opinion on like coconut sugar?
On what, sorry?
Coconut sugar. Or like
Cocoa sugar. Well, there's still sugar. Still sugar.
It's different sugars.
Yeah, so if as long as it's a sugar, it doesn't mean that there's not better, more nutritious types of sugars. But it's like maple syrup. I think it's the biggest hoax ever. Do I like maple syrup? Absolutely. But to try to say, hey, it's a health food, I mean, come on, it's sugar. It's natural, but it's sugar. Like it is what it is. Yummy, but
what about
try not to.
what if you buy like, obviously if you don't buy like Chelsea maple syrup, that's obviously full of sugar. But what if you bought like
It's all.
cane, like
You mean sugar-free?
you know, like maple syrup. So
it's
like
still sugar.
the $10 maple syrup over the $3.
Oh, look, like there's more nutritious versions.
Lost.
They do,
Can you
yeah.
just repeat the question so the guys...
Okay, yeah. So we're talking about or choice of sugar. Is there going to be a difference in the type of sugar? Because we might say, for instance, fructose versus sucrose. Anything with an ose on the end is a sugar, right? So you've got lactose. But at the end of the day, all of those oses break down into glucose and are stored in your body as glycogen. So they're all going to be still stored as the same unit of energy. Okay, so if you choose to have certain types of sugars, they'll all end up there as glycogen. So yeah, that's where people get a little bit confused. Oh, it's okay because it's, you know, it's natural, or it's this and that. It's, yeah.
What about like the Coke no sugar?
Yeah, so
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Coke no sugar.
Yeah.
So you've got artificial. Obviously, you've got artificial sweeteners. Depending on the artificial sweetener, you will find that some of them will actually mimic the effects of sugar, even if it won't be adding calories. So it won't necessarily add calories to your overall calorie amount, but you might find that you're still playing havoc with your insulin receptors in the body. Does that mean that happens when you have one or two? No, of course not. And that's where I'm still a realist. If you want to have a Coke Zero, that's fine. But people that are having Coke Zero, you know, 5 times a day, and you know, say it's okay because it's 0 calories. You know, nothing's happening, and then they're fine. But yeah, I think that's the main thing. And there is obviously certain bands with different types of, you know, artificial sweetness in certain countries, and that people really get behind that. Look, like I said, moderation is an important thing. If someone's drinking 5 cans of Coke per day, and then they can reduce that to 3 cans of, you know, Coke Zero, they're on a win. That's going to be able to help them. But hopefully we can get that down to 1. You know, that's the way that I generally tend to think, and try not to kind of hate on, you know, if someone wants to have their naughties, that's, you know, whatever.
So you kind of brought in 2 paths that result in the same thing, one being stress and cortisol, and one being the sugar you eat.
Yeah.
Is that kind of correct? And they're both resulting in the insulin factor, which is then the no fat rate.
Spot on, yeah. So we could be drawing upon glucose without even necessarily eating a lot of separate glucose, and we don't realise that. And has anybody ever had like one of the monitors that you leave on overnight? They're a lot more popular now, where you walk around with it for like, it's 2 weeks usually. You can order them in the mail. I'm sure they've got them over here in NZ. Come on, guys, you know that.
We're a bit behind.
We'll just
We're
you
back in
watch
the 80s.
for the next week. You just see these people look like they've got like their lumps on their shoulder. No, honestly, it's really like the technology is really cool now, because you can do it yourself, but it comes up on your phone. And it actually gives you a report on what your blood glucose is doing throughout the day. And the really interesting thing that most people will comment on is that what happens to them at night time. Because they're asleep, they're out to it, but they're watching their blood glucose going, you know. And why do you wake up in the middle of the night? Oftentimes you think, well, I'm waking up because I'm going to go for a pee-pee or whatever it might be. But a lot of the time you wake up because your blood glucose wakes you up. So you're actually compelled to want to get up because the energy levels in your body are unconsciously building, and you go, oh, and while I'm up, I might have a pee. So, yeah. Sorry?
Is that why when you drink, you usually wake up at 3 a.m.?
It's very specific. Depends on what time you go to bed. Well, so when you drink, you generally tend to starve your brain of a bit of oxygen as well too, and you find that your recovery isn't as good. So depending on what you're drinking, your blood glucose levels usually are pretty all over the place. But usually you wake up at the same time because of your circadian rhythm. So it depends on what time you go to bed. So if you go to bed and you're out like a light, like if you say 10 o'clock, you wake up to go to the toilet in the middle of the night, most likely it will be at the end of a 90-minute cycle. So you'll wake up at 11:30, 1 o'clock, you know, it'll be 2:30, 4 o'clock. And if you've ever woken up at one of those times and gone to the toilet and think, geez, I feel good. And then you wake up after your alarm goes off and you go, I feel like I've been hit by a bus, you know, and you kind of figured, I should have probably stayed awake. It's because you woke up in the midway through your circadian rhythm. When you get to learn how to do that, particularly with athletes, it's a really important thing. That's why I'm probably giving away our secrets here, down at the AIS. Okay, you go there at like, usually about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, it's dead silent. All the athletes are sleeping. They sleep during the middle of the day. It's like their siesta time. It's like, whoosh. But they never ever sleep for more than a given period. Usually that's a light sleep's all under half an hour, so they don't dive into another deep sleep. So, yeah.
So I think, Riley, were you asking if you're drinking alcohol? Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're drinking alcohol, is that where you wake up at 3 a.m.? That's what you're saying.
Well, it could do, because you're light sleeping, and then at the end of your circadian rhythm, you're just up. You become a lot more aware. So yeah, we wake up a lot more when we're a lot more conscious, because we'll all go through that. We go through the circadian rhythm, by the way, during the day as well. Do you know this? So, see where right about now, which is why I got you guys up to move before. Between the hours of 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock is where we're most susceptible to feeling a bit, okay? The reason being is our body is preparing for a sleep, a second sleep. I'm not kidding you, we are designed to sleep twice. All right, that's true, but not all of us can do that. So what happens is our blood glucose starts to reduce, our temperature starts to reduce as well, our growth hormone starts to climb, and we start to get a little bit tired. And that's why you'll find most accidents happen at work between 1 and 3. Most daily road incidents happen between 1 and 3 that aren't induced by alcohol and things like that. Okay. Just so you know. Because of this period, people are always trying to overcome this period. They're like, I've got to get rid of it. I want to get over the afternoon hump, and that's where you have your coffee and stuff. Generally, the fitter and healthier you are, the more you'll actually feel it, that little space there. So it can be quite good to have a bit of a rest where you can, not necessarily sleeping, but breathing and taking a bit of a chill out period. You know, if you watch Seinfeld, George used to sleep under his desk. I used to do that when I was lecturing sometimes. It was pretty interesting when people were touring the college. I was just crashed out. But yeah, 10 minutes is fine. My point. So yes, that answers that. But we'll have a little bit more time to open this up, guys, like I said. And this one here is a very different, who loves the 𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐠 Supreme? So this is filled with adaptogens. Adaptogens are what will adapt around your body's both physical and mental stresses to be able to make you or cause you to deal with these stresses much better. I know that sounds very open-ended, but each person is very different in how your body responds to adaptogens. All right, so some people find that if they have this at night time when they're winding down, that it's a great supplement just to put them at ease. If you start playing, sport or getting yourself excited during the end of the evening, you might find yourself getting quite excited so much that you actually are pushing the boundaries and don't want to go to sleep as much. So where it actually then sits for you is very personal. Some people love this supplement first thing in the morning rather than having a coffee. All right. Which is where it's really different with Isagenix. It's not just, hey, this is the weight loss formula, this is the muscle building formula, this is, hey, when you do a new plan, it can be quite stressful. Life can be quite stressful. Families, sleep, jobs, all sorts of things. So it works in a counter to the potential for you to fall off by feeling some of the effects of what's happening around you. Now, being a trainer and a nutritionist for as long as I have, I would say that's the biggest thing that will cause people to fall off their plans, is usually the stress outside of their plan. All right? So if it were just about focusing on training and eating and doing all the right things, then most of us would never be off a plan. But we have to tend with all those other things that are around us. And then even just going on a new plan itself can be stressful because you're like, what am I going to eat? This is a whole new routine for me. So never underestimate how powerful this is as part of the plan.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
And cleansing, as we mentioned. So obviously this is where the body goes through a lot of change. Autophagy is real, which is where our body gets out the old cells in with the new cells. And we know now when we speak to people about cleansing or fasting, it's usually an open audience. It used to be that's starving your body, Now we've seen so much of the benefit that's promoted through Chris Hemsworth on the longevity, documentaries, as well as, a lot of the science now is completely backing it. So it's important whether you choose 12 hours, 18 or 24 or 48. That's completely up to you and where your experience lies. Generally, as your metabolism becomes faster, cleansing becomes a bit harder. So as you train better, generally it becomes a little bit trickier. 24 hours can oftentimes feel like 2 days. But yeah, it's still a challenge.
I mean, there's a lot of people in here that don't actually know what cleansing is.
Yep.
And they might be like, I could never do Isagenix because it involves an element of fasting.
Yep.
What would you say to them?
I would say I can understand that. Because the thought of going without food for me particularly was like, what? I eat a lot. Anyone else relate? Yeah. So, but when you're doing something to your body that causes an effect, so resistance training, for instance, we're applying resistance, we're putting ourselves through some form of discomfort with the hope that the body now is going to come back stronger and able to adapt to that new level. So any result that we get within fitness is because we put our body at dis-ease and we're now allowing the body to come back stronger, more adapted. It's the same as the callus on your hands if you're lifting weights It's the same as the skin that you have, where, you know, if you're out in the sun, if you've got that lovely Mediterranean brown skin, not the ginger skin like me, you probably find that when you go out in the sun, it will adapt and it will condition in the same way that a muscle will adapt and condition. Is everyone with me on that? So ideally, when it comes to cleansing, I think it's so important that people start small and then build from there. Don't freak yourself out and try to do it all at once. But when you see the benefits and you can feel the benefits and you can see how much your body is really getting from it, I think that's where you become a bit of a ninja, and then you start to upset other people with how much you get really excited about cleansing, because you can see how much it really does for you. Yeah.
Would you recommend skipping the workout if you're going to be doing that? So you're talking about the importance of...
Yeah, you look, that depends on the person as well too. If I look at like a performance person and then they need to be able to get it in because psychologically, if they don't, they're going to go nuts, don't miss the session. But for most people, I wouldn't try to lift the house down. I wouldn't try to lift your personal best on a cleanse day. I'd just I'd go through the motions. I'd be there, do different type of workout, but I wouldn't be trying to run 10Ks or, you know, lift my PBs, because then you're gonna use muscle for energy.
Excuse me. Does it matter which 24-hour gap you've done?
That's a good question.
From lunchtime to lunch.
Yeah.
Sleeping after it, so.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like to do that too. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Except for sometimes you'll find that if you're cleansing, it's sometimes hard to sleep. Do you find that? Do you know if it's because your brain activity starts to increase? And yeah, and also part of what makes you tired at night time is the digestion of your food is quite an effort. And when you take that out of the equation, when you're not cleansing, you find that your body's just like, can be a little bit more wired. Which is interesting.
You spoke to the effects that cleansing has on the metabolism. What other things are there that affect the speed of a person's metabolism? Does that live in stress?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, cleansing relating to metabolism. Is there anything specifically that will relate to increasing and improving the metabolism, you're saying?
Or slowing down, just what
slowing down? So firstly, the metabolism is explained as a thing. It's almost like this magic sort of idea of like the running speed of your body, right? But really what metabolism is, it's a combination of different hormones. So it's like different chemicals in your body. And that combination of different chemicals in different amounts will affect the speed at which your body can break down and process and utilize the energy from the food that you eat. So produce ATP and etc., which is, we'll chat a bit more about it. Now, metabolism, it's quite tricky though, because it depends a lot. So 67% relies on your muscle mass. So directly on your muscle mass. So it means that your muscle mass determines your metabolism speed majority of the time, okay? So training works out at something like between 12 and 14%. So it's not really that much in the scheme of things. You've got temperature regulation as well too, that affects it, and food, the process of eating and feeding. As we mentioned before, when you're eating, that digestive process that goes through the body, that's actually quite an effort. So food itself is actually what stimulates the metabolism. So what will affect it? Lack of sleep, lack of training. When you're getting stressed, you usually find stress indirectly affects it through lack of sleep and sleep quality and recovery, and that's what generally tends to cause that vicious cycle. So yeah, but the cool thing about metabolism is that you can affect it. Like you can do training and training will directly affect it. You can eat better and it can directly affect it. And that's why oftentimes people will say, you know, what's the best thing to do? It's like, well, each part is like a little percent. Like, but why do you eat every 3 hours? A little 1%. Do you have to eat every 3 hours? No. Does it work for you? Yes. Do you want to go to bed at a certain time so you get good sleep, so that you feel better the next day, your metabolism's good? Yep. Do you want to eat, high sugary foods all the time, or do you want to try and balance it up? Eat a little mixture? Yeah. All those little tiny things will amount.
How much do your genes affect your rate of metabolism?
Yeah, it's a great question. So how much do your genes affect the rate of metabolism? Well, it affects the metabolism as it stands generally, or what you're capable of right from the beginning. But then what you add to it and how you can adapt it is generally going to be up to you. So yes, we've all heard, and something that is quite disappointing for me at a stage in my life where I look back on a lot of people that I've worked with and trained, and you see that people would often say things like, I can eat whatever I want. And I never put on, they're like that's the kiss of death, all right? Don't, seriously, as a trainer, if you ever say that, every person that said that, okay? 20 years later, I meet that person, we don't even need to say anything. It just becomes awkward. You know what I mean? So just don't be that person, right? So yes, and when you're younger, etc., your metabolism might be higher. And some of these are my close friends too. Larissa, who's a great friend of mine, she'd die if I knew. I was spending her name, but she was a top model. She lived her whole life. She's one of my closest friends, for a very, very long time. And she said, Lox, I just never believed when you said that it would happen to me. I just knew, and she's worked really hard and pulled her weight down now, but it never really happened to her. I can eat whatever I want. Righto. So, Cleanse for Life, of course, as we mentioned, helps the whole process of the cleanse along, so that it just makes it a lot more light for your body to experience. You don't have to do a 24-hour cleanse, you can do a 12-hour, experience it, and give your body a bit of a rest, even if just from a bit of digestion. Allow the body to feel what it's like to have a bit of resistance. It's okay to feel a little bit of resistance from feeling hungry.
Is there anything too much cleansing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't for a month period, the most is what's recommended is 6 days in total. But most of the time for most people, they wouldn't go near that. They'd do 1 a week for 4 weeks, and that's fine. If someone's really training very hard for something like an athlete or directly for muscle gain, particularly in the final stages, I'm doing once every fortnight, depending on the person. If they're losing muscle in that process, the last thing I want. But if they're gaining, wonderful. But a lot of the time when they're training for comps and things, then we're reducing their calories, so it's a very fine line. So we might need all the help we can get. So each person, each situation is very different.
If you drink a cleanse at night time,
yep.
Wouldn't you drink a cleanse before you?
Does it do the same thing?
Does that help you to lose more weight when you're sleeping?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, guys, if you're taking the Cleanse for Life at night time, does it help you accelerate weight loss during the evening? So no, it doesn't generally directly accelerate any sort of weight loss. It can, like I said, it helps with the cleansing process, particularly when you're cleansing, when you're conscious, to be able to help you through. Even though it will be a light, obviously a light addition to the body, it's not necessarily going to be driving your metabolism because you're not moving or anything like that. So it's not that it's bad for it, but generally speaking, yeah, it's not going to do a lot directly with weight loss through that. People try to play with the different elements of nutrition. So for instance, you can have protein and then high sugar, and you might wake up the next day feeling a bit slimmer. That doesn't mean you've lost weight. Okay? Just there's little tricks that we can do for photo shoots and things like that. Like we can do that all day, but some stuff is permanent and other stuff is just working with the different elements of your body.
Is the 30-day reset, it's advised to do 1 cleanse a week, otherwise 2 back-to-back in a week?
Yep.
Why can't we do 3 if we won't do lots of energy?
3 in 3 weeks?
No, 3 back-to-back days.
3 days in a row.
3 days in a row. Well, it just keeps a structure to it. And you'll find as well too, the cleanse itself, it becomes a point where it's no longer going to be of a great benefit. So try not to think of the cleanse as all about just reducing your calories, because if it was, when we do, so as a nutritionist, we often don't talk about calories per day. you know, people would say things like, well, how many calories I should be taking per day. It's a good habit to get into when you're trying to work out or even appreciate how many calories you be consuming. Most people would be pretty shocked. You grab the day of the week and you times it by 7. So in the best case scenario, there's no great nutrition plan that's perfectly suited to every day of your life, because every day is not the same, right? But we like to think that that could work like that. Just tell me what to eat and I'll eat it every single day. No one does that. No one does that. But tell me how many calories to eat per day. And then it's like people want to know it, but once they find it out, they do nothing with it.
But is it bad to
That's,
per day?
sorry?
Is it bad?
It's not, for extremely overweight people, it has been proven with science that it may be of benefit. But not on Isagenix, because of the way that our structure works, that's not the only focus. So we want to be able to make sure that we're still encouraging muscle growth. We're still encouraging absorption of nutrients and these sorts of things. And optimally, that 2 days, and remember too, the greatest way to get more out of a cleanse is not to cleanse for longer, is to increase your metabolism outside of the cleanse. Because the faster your metabolism is, the quicker you go into autophagy, and the more benefit you'll get from the cleanses that you have. So a person with a fast metabolism doing a 1-day cleanse is just as good as being able to do 2 days, based on your metabolism. You with me? So how much someone should, does anyone have a Whoop, for instance, and you can see how much your calories that your body should be consuming based on your activity that you're doing immediately, not just averaging. It just will tell you actually how much that you should be doing. It's pretty shocking sometimes, you know, depending on a person. So for me personally, my body naturally consumes between 4,500 calories per day just by being myself. And I'm not an endurance athlete. Should I recommend somebody else do that? Probably not, because then they would then probably put on a lot of weight.
So
all right.
Would you get a better result by eating less more often, or eating bigger meals at sort of less intervals?
So if you're eating less more often, you mean as in a calorie deficit, or just small meals?
No, just talking about for speeding metabolism.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Smaller meals more often is better than like 2 big meals a day.
Well, and that's what we've always promoted. There's always different science that tries to debunk it, and because they're often trying to find what's the perfect amount per day. But it comes back to so much of human choice, because it might be able to say, okay, well, over the 12-week period, we saw no difference in people eating 4 times a day versus people eating 3 times a day. But here's the thing, outside of 12 weeks, you look at somebody eating for 2 years, and how they live their life and their lifestyle and their preferences and how that works, and how your body will now start to assimilate with the blood glucose levels when you're used to eating more consistently. So it will remind you that you're hungry. So who, for instance, goes through the day and they go, I just forgot to eat? Generally, people that forget to eat are people that don't eat consistently. Because if you eat consistently, you're the person that no one wants to bring along to a family picnic or go on a hike or something, because you're like, man, it's just, you know, you're packing bars and you're doing all that, because your blood glucose will now assimilate with your lifestyle and pop up to remind you. This way you get, that's where your hunger hormones will kick in before.
So that was the other part of my question too, is you mentioned about blood sugars spiking. What about the other way around with the low blood sugars?
Yeah. So generally the person that is going to be constantly eating finds it very tricky to manage low blood glucose level, which is why they get hangry a lot quicker than somebody that doesn't eat as consistent. You know, I recently drove from Melbourne to Brisbane, because I've just moved in Australia, and I was driving with a friend of mine. It's probably about 27-hour drive, right? So we had a lot of time in the seat. And by the end of that 27 hours, he goes, mate, I just did not know how much you actually ate, because then he goes, it just reminded me how much we are so different, because I would just be there and just next thing, can we stop here, man? You know, like, we need to stop because I need to go to the bathroom and need to get some more food and because that's how I train my body. And you get momentum from your habits, right? So this is where I think sometimes we don't really get it. It's like you don't have to eat four meals a day, you don't have to eat 5. But if your habit is in place to do that, is that such a bad habit if you've got your calories in check? So when you experience low blood glucose, you can fix it very quickly, obviously, because you've got your habit in place. But yeah, you will dive a lot quicker.
And would it help with the sleep on the other end of it? Because is that what's causing the issues with sleep? Is that your cortisol is up and down due to your food intake?
So generally, the low blood glucose won't wake you up. It's not. That's not. Is that what you mean? So you're balancing it out quite well, taking away the stress.
You're talking about how your body gets used to how you eat.
Yes.
And then if you're eating less more often, because that's my problem, is on the other way. I have 2 big meals a day.
Yep.
And I'm wondering about switching that.
Yep.
Which I have done in the past and had good results.
Good.
But also with regards to sleep, because I work with people that have problem sleeping as well, whether you could recommend having less to eat, sort of having less more often, would that stabilise that blood sugar?
Well, most of the time, yeah. Especially closer to sleep, like at least they recommend 3 hours before bed is when you should be eating. I find that pretty tricky because, like, that's a long. Like, if they say you get to bed at 10 o'clock, that means your last meal's at 7. I don't know. I'm searching around probably after, but that's just me, right? But yeah. That definitely makes a big difference because if you imagine at night time, if you've got a lot of mechanical breakdown and stuff like that's going on, and your glucose levels shooting up, and you're having to deal with all of that, that's where most people go wrong, I find. Yeah, smaller meals are definitely.
Kind of tying in with what we're saying. Can you kind of explain the relationship between like your nervous system and cleansing over time?
Yep.
Like what you know from science?
Yep. So you're talking about specifically with women, or?
Not specifically with women necessarily, but just thinking of like, because you're removing, like I know you're supplementing and supporting and stuff, but just in general what your understanding is of over that time in the nervous system, like whether it supports it in terms of like your parasympathetic nervous system, or if it will be kind of spiked a bit more?
It depends on how somebody has been cleansing and nourishing. So I think that what we've experienced in most fields of fitness and nutrition, you can use the system or you can abuse it. It's sometimes it's like where people will train for a bodybuilding comp as an excuse to train really hard and not eat as much. So a lot of people that gravitate towards body comps have got eating disorders. So a person that is going to grab a cleanse and cleanse more than they eat, or cleanse more than they train, and find themselves in a situation where they're not recovering as much because that's affecting their sleep and different things like this. This is where it's important to always bring it back. You need some sort of measure. And this is why training at the same time, I believe, with everything that you do, in any regard, even if it's you training along with it's an aerobics class or a structured gym set, whatever it might be, you always need to understand where your performance is at. Because as soon as your performance or your ability starts to waver, you start to see that, hey, something that I'm doing is not working. So if you can't lift, if you can't perform the way that you know that you can, as part of your everyday, that's where you start to take a closer look at the things that you're doing. If I cleanse less, does this affect it? If I don't eat as much or at night time, does this affect it? There has to be, I'm not trying to say again that everyone needs to be so committed to every element that they need to try to write down, but if you've got one exercise in the gym that you know you can lift a certain weight on, and that some of us have had the experience, you come one day and you lift it, it feels like butter. Another day you're sitting there, why is it so heavy? Something's not right. Something in that whole collective is not quite right. So when we talk in terms of long-term from a research perspective, some interesting things coming out, different things, men, women, different protocol. Oftentimes that protocol doesn't include nutrition that's in and around the workout cleanse. So there hasn't been a whole lot there on how much it's affecting, usually from a hormonal perspective, it indirectly affects the nervous system. And people try to train over the top of it and do different things like that. So try to imagine it's a tricky one to kind of know, but always come back to performance. That's the best thing that I can ever say for most of us. in what we do if we can't do the things that we used to do because we've put something in place. And this is why I get quite passionate about athletes, for instance, coming along to Isagenix. You need to do things differently than just following just 1, 2, 3, here you go. You need to increase your calories, you need to put the right protocol in place. And when you do, then you'll fall in love with the supplements. I don't want somebody to come along and have the experience that might be half-hearted and then come away and go, well, I was starving, so I couldn't, couldn't perform. So there's different ways of being able to manage it depending on what your lifestyle's like. Okay, so yes, we can power through this if that's okay. 23 years of results. And this is the best way to get started. Honestly, this is how I sort of got involved with popping my clients in through this. It's a structured way of being able to bring to life our the products as well as training at the same time. Like I said, when you train and put these products in at the same time, I can't predict the results that you get. How exciting is that? It's super exciting. What I've been able to witness has been phenomenal. Like truly phenomenal. And I get a chance to train and to work with people from all different walks of life. Remember James? You know, who, what's James' last name? James, the African American, from Sydney. But he was 72, 73, did his first bodybuilding comp, had a heart attack at 60, knew that he had to figure out his health, started training. What this guy's got like lumps and bumps all over him, like he's super shredded, and he won his master's comp and went on to do all sorts of things, does weighted chin-ups at 72 years of age. Like it just, some of the stuff I've been able to witness has been an absolute pleasure. Like as a person, let alone a trainer or somebody that works closely with these people, you know. So I think this is usually the start, and usually find that what happens here is that people put together a plan each challenge. And it's okay to live your life in challenges, by the way. Generally, I was thinking about this last night. The best longevity case that I could ever imagine is someone who's probably done the most amount of challenges. Not necessarily just Kickstart, but just any challenge that you set yourself, lock it in, get to the end of your challenge, lock another one in. It's probably the best way of thinking as we get older. And it's the only way as trainers that we think, by the way. We've always kind of got our next challenge in our own mind. So blocking, whether it's 90 days or 12-week blocks, is a great way to live your life. So this way you get a group to support you and get you through it. And there's some great cash prizes. 9,000 New Zealand, which is pretty solid, isn't it?
Thank you so much, Locky. That is just amazing.
I've
actually got a couple of testimonials now that we would love to share. Just people that have genuinely taken on board everything Locky's been talking about, followed the program, and the results, right, are the best part of it. So the first young lady I'd love to invite up actually won the $9,000 as part of this Kickstart 90. I'd love you to share her journey, and that's Rosie Waters.
Hello. Hi everyone, I'm Rosie, I'm from Auckland. I came first place the Q4 last year, won $9,000. On the left side, that was me after I had my son, trying to get rid of all my baby fat that did not go away. I was doing everything, calorie counting. I was that person that weighed everything, had to weigh my butter, my oil, peanut butter, everything. It was really, really long. It took 2 years to lose 8 kgs. I was playing sports, I was running twice a week, 2 sports per week, 6 times a week. I was training at the gym. Yeah, I just could not, nothing was working for me. My first 30 days, I lost 8 kgs, which is the same amount there was in my 2-year journey of trying to lose my baby fat. The system for me, I was skeptical at first, but I saw lots of transformations at Gabby's gym here in Taita. And then, I just saw all these people, random people I'd never met, and I was like, if they can do it, then I can do it. Now I don't count any calories, I eat whatever I want. I still meal prep, but I prep whatever I want to eat. I've kept the weight off. I lost 11 kgs total. Now I've lost 12 because I'm doing training with my girls and coaching them. And now I just live like a better life. I'm doing the business. Life's good. Wouldn't go back to counting calories.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful because she was doing all the right things. You know, she's a gym manager. She's training every day, training at the gym, eating clean, drinking water, doing all those things, and unable to get the results. And what I love about Rosie is she's like, I'm smaller now, but I'm so much stronger. You know, like her, she's so much stronger than before, which is really special. And next we've got an incredible mum come all the way from Tokoroa to share her story. So that is Peter.
Hi everyone, my name is Peter and I'm from Tokoroa. I'm a mum of 3 girls, which you are here today, and my husband. My journey started a year ago, and I bought a business, and I was about a year and a half into the business, and with anything, like I had some business skills, but not exactly overly excelled in anything, but just sort of had the basic skills. So along with all that stress and that pressure that you have in learning the business side of things, my business is pretty physical as well, and I hand sieve pumice and scoria and mix potting mixes and lift 100 litre bins of potting mixes and stuff like that. So, but I just kept gaining weight, and I had, this one was only 2 years old and the other one's starting school, so yeah, I was struggling and I was drowning, and I met my lovely coach, 𝐿𝐸, who's here as well, at a market, and she had just sort of gently and showed me transformations and stuff, and I just rung her up and said, look, let's just do it. And we signed up to my first 90-day challenge straight away. I got the product, started the next day on the 1st of July last year, and in my first 90 days I lost 15.5 kilos and won 3rd place. And then from there I have continued on with the journey. Thank you. So I've continued on the journey, and my goal was to get down to 80 kilos from 106, and so I am there now. And the products... the products have just been amazing, like being able to actually have that personal touch and not just buy a shake off the shelf at a supermarket, and have that community and stuff has been really, really amazing, and learning about these products and stuff has been awesome, and the kids love it, and so I just really love it. I've got more energy. I'm just out there and just doing it all.
A lot of the transformations, as we know, millions of people are trying to drop fat, but Isagenix, as you've heard from Locky, is a scientifically backed wellness system for body optimization, right? Which is gaining muscle, dropping fat, reducing cortisol, all those things together. So it's so cool because whatever your body needs, the system will do. The same people start on a 30-day program that want to build muscle, that want to drop fat, that want to sleep better, that want to boost their metabolism, the same 30-day system. It's pretty freaking awesome because it works with your body, right?